When I bought my first home, I made so many mistakes. Ultimately, it cost me $5,000 in 12 months of my life. It wasn't until Danielle, a coworker at the time, pulled me aside and gave me some much needed advice. This for me was a moment where everything changed. Watching this video until the end will help you avoid the 5 massive mistakes I made. So stick around and remember, hit that subscribe button. 1. Know what you want. Starting my property search in 2013, my property brief was simple. Or so I thought. I had champagne taste on a beer budget, wanting a property for less than $350,000, and preferably it had to be a house, but I'd consider a townhouse or a unit as long as it was big enough. Had to be close to the city, transport and shops, and couldn't be on a main road. Yeah, I wanted everything. So sure, it was any property anywhere, so long as it was within 15 kilometers of the city. It essentially meant that each Saturday I was traveling halfway across Brisbane attending open homes. To say this approach scarred me is an understatement. I still remember this Saturday and it was raining cats and dogs. The night before, I had just finished a big week and enjoyed a few drinks with my co-workers. The last thing I wanted to do that morning was to get up and gallivant across Brisbane, but I had found 2 properties which were perfect. The only trouble was one open home was in Salisbury and the other was in Stafford. Yep, I thought to myself, this was gonna be a whole lot of fun. So I rocked up at the Salisbury inspection, and apart from getting drenched on the way in, I liked what I saw. It had a big kitchen, a few bedrooms, and I loved the fact that it was a brick house. I started thinking to myself what life would be like living here, but my thoughts were cut short as I had no more time to spare if I was gonna make the property in Stafford. And every Saturday looked very similar to this. Buying my first home felt like Groundhog Day. For me, this was what every Saturday looked like. I'd go to as many open homes as I could and literally would only have 5 minutes to walk in and out of the house if I was gonna make the next open. I didn't have time to spare, no time to think, no time to talk to the agent, no time to inspect the property. It was by having such a large property brief, it meant that I spun my wheels a whole lot. This is the first mistake you'll want to avoid. Know what you're looking for and be as specific as you can. Here are 4 things you can do to avoid this mistake. Firstly, limit your search to no more than 2 suburbs. Secondly, describe specifically what your home looks like. Thirdly, know what a deal breaker looks like. And finally, create a buyer's brief. You can do that by using a checklist we have. Link is in the description. 2. Due diligence. From open homes to research and even my own due diligence, I was in a hurry, and it's because I had no time to think. Back then, I actually believed what real estate agents would tell me. I still remember the first property I made an offer on. The agent had me believe that there was another offer that had been made, and if it didn't act quickly, that the owners were gonna take it. Yeah, I was naive and an amateur. On another occasion, I entered into a contract on a property which was in a high flood zone. A simple search online would have revealed this. But because I was in such a rush, I didn't do this. Keep in mind, this is a free search. I only found out after having paid my solicitor to complete their normal searches. Talk about a kick in the guts. I spent over $5,000 on solicitors and building and pest fees, and it's all because I made offers on properties which ended up being duds. Here are the 3 things you can do to avoid making this same mistake. Firstly, slow down. Know that if you miss out on a property, all is not lost. Think of it like a busy bus stop. There's always one around the corner. Secondly, be sure when you do complete a building and pest inspection that you're there. Don't just rely on the report. And thirdly, complete your due diligence checklist. You can find a link in the description below. 3. Budget. You're probably thinking, but Josh, could you even get a property for $350,000 back in 2013? Even back then, it was pretty skinny. For me, it wasn't until Danielle, a co-worker of mine at the time, pulled me aside and gave me some much needed advice. I still remember her telling me, Josh, you're about to make the same mistake I made when I bought my first home. And I replied, what mistake's that? She continued, when I bought my first home, my partner and I spent as little as we could. We were like you, nervous about heaps of things, from a 30-year commitment to whether we'd be able to afford the mortgage. And just a side note, what you don't know is at the time Danielle was 6 months pregnant. Earlier, they had sold their first home to upgrade to a home which is going to be more suitable for their growing family. Back to Danielle, she said, we've wasted so much money on selling our first home, having to pay stamp duty and real estate agent fees. We just wished that we had spent a little bit more on our first home because we outgrew it so quickly. And it was at this point the penny dropped for me. I was doing everything I can to spend as little as I could. And unsurprisingly, every property I put an offer on turned out to be a lemon. Knowing her story, I decided to take her advice and I increased my budget. So you don't make this mistake, here are the 2 things you can do. Firstly, be careful not to go overboard. Just because a bank will lend to you millions doesn't mean you should take it. The last thing you want to do is have a mortgage but no life. An easy way to know if you can increase your limit is to look at how much you've been saving over the last 6 months consistently and adding your rental and any other expense which will cease once you own your property. As long as your payments don't exceed this, then you're sweet and can increase your budget. 4. Nervous. At the time, I was a home loan specialist for a bank. I'd been helping people buy their dream homes for almost 3 years at that point, and I knew everything about the home loan process and the buying journey. But even with all this, I was freaking out. I was worried about whether my home loan would get declined, even though I knew I qualified and had clean credit. I was concerned about what would happen if I don't get approved in time, or if someone put down an offer quicker than me. I was nervous, I was scared, I was worried about everything. Looking back, and I realized it didn't have to be the case. It's because buying your first home is a wonderful and exciting experience. So if you're looking to buy your first home and you're feeling the butterflies in your tummy, know it's okay. To help calm those nerves, here are a few steps you can follow. Firstly, learn as much as you can about the home buying process. And it's as easy as hitting that subscribe button below. Secondly, find yourself a fantastic team who will keep you on the loop every step of the way. From your mortgage broker to conveyancer, and even your building and pest inspector. Make sure you've got your A team. And finally, you can download and complete our checklists so you'll leave no stone unturned and leave as much of the guesswork out of it. Link can be found below. 5. My first home. They say it takes a tribe to raise a child. Buying your first home requires much the same. I would eventually go on to buy my first home over 12 months after I began my journey. At the time, I was still living at home, and because of the many trials and tribulations, I'd thrown in the towel on an array of occasions. Knowing my anguish, my mother would regularly find properties on realestate.com to try to help me. In the end, the property I bought was actually one she found for me. Talk about a mummy's boy. For me, buying my first home couldn't have been more stressful. If I only knew what I know now, the whole process could have been so different. I share my story so you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. So now it's over to you. I'd love to hear your stories and how your search is going. Or have you already bought your first home? What happened? I'd love to know your story and what lessons you learned. Leave a comment below. Here at Hunter Galloway, we get home loans approved. So if you live in Australia and looking for a mortgage broker, we can help. Visit us online, huntergalloway.com.au, or call us on 1300 088 065. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.